Take two. Hey guys, so we wanted to do a video about frozen embryos, which I don't think there are a lot of videos out there about the subject.
Not as exciting as frozen margaritas.
No, and you know, it's no, not.
Sounds weird.
And
Sorry.
It sounds weird, and it's like I see a lot of videos, like, you know, trying to conceive videos, and you know, maybe people haven't gotten to the point of having frozen embryos hanging out at the cryobank, and you know, we thought it was something that we'd like to discuss, talk about, and that it might be helpful to share some of our thoughts about the subject. Why are you laughing at me?
Sorry.
Didn't know what to say. What would you say? Okay, well, yeah. So thoughts about frozen embryos. I actually had a good friend of mine forward an article to me from someplace that was about frozen embryos. And it was really interesting because it talked about the various ways...
Let's rewind for a minute.
What?
This is about a dilemma that some families face when they've done... So subsequent to an IVF cycle, or perhaps...
Oh, you're being the educator.
No, I'm not being an educator. I'm just saying the background of why would you
How do you end up with
frozen
embryos? I mean,
it's not like you just have them sitting around.
Maybe you don't even know that. Yeah, how do you get a frozen embryo? That's a really good rewind.
Well, you can't just easily get one. That's my point.
Good point.
It's not easy. And
some people don't have frozen
women
embryos.
or families who wind up with
they wish they did.
Finding themselves in the dilemma with frozen embryos are
you see Lily's like hanging out right in the back.
I'm glad that she's there. I'd rather her be there than in my lap pawing at me.
Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
Anyway, so the point
it's a good dilemma to have. It's a very good dilemma to have.
Anyway, so some people, families, who've done an IVF, at least one IVF cycle, have the potential. This is I don't even know actually how common it is, but have the potential where they've had a round of IVF and they had a embryo transfer from that IVF cycle that resulted in a successful pregnancy with live births and children. And maybe they have some embryos still in storage from that IVF cycle. And what do you do now? Because there are literally a few decisions. However, behind the scenes, I think what's important to know is you have to pay for.
Yes, there's a substantial fee.
You pay rent.
Annual fee involved in maintaining those frozen embryos in I call it a cryobank, but is that what it's called? A freezer somewhere.
They're frozen in time.
Frozen in time somewhere. So there's about different techniques. So you know, and I'm sure it varies about how many embryos that you have. Like I have no idea, but we are paying, you know, it's fine to say we're paying like $800 a year.
Anyway, it's not an insignificant fee that you have to pay annually or monthly or however your doctor's office or cryobank happens to have whatever the fees they are that they charge.
I think the big thing is you're continually reminded of the fact that you have frozen embryos that are hanging out somewhere that you have to make a decision
in fact
what to do with them.
Whenever we are visiting in the area where we know our frozen embryos are, we're driving down the highway, we
wave.
Hi. It's really weird. This is a very personal thing, and I know that there are different people's ethical, moral, religious beliefs around this. So we don't, you know, everyone is open to their own opinion, their own beliefs, their own morals, their own feelings around this. And personal experience certainly shapes that as well. You know, you could have a hypothetical belief and then your own personal experience in that area will probably turn your world upside down. But anyway, it's just to raise, I think, the idea that this is actually out there, it's happening, and couples have to face this.
Yeah.
Or families have to face this.
So we wanted to make a video.
What do you do? What do you do?
It was sort of like a what do you do? So my friend sent me this article. I read the article about there were various things that people do, like how they go about,
Well, I'll tell you what the options are.
Okay, tell them what
it's
the options
very basic.
Are. Well, it's basic.
You could try.
I hadn't really thought about
using your embryos if you would like to try
have more kids.
Pregnancy. You could, depending on your age, really your age when the cycle occurred, and the outcome, and the status and the quality of the embryos. Some people can donate those.
For scientific?
No. You can donate them to other families.
That's another option. Donate to other families. Got it. That's number 2.
Right. Almost like
Got
it's
it.
literally, it's like adoption.
Right.
But it's at the embryo stage.
Number 3.
Now that I would say may be more unusual because a lot of people who do IVF tend to be older and outside of the quality.
Right, and then if you're not, then you basically have one of your children's siblings, biological siblings out there, somewhere.
Right. So. It's like giving up a child for adoption.
All right, number 3.
And then number 3 is
scientific.
Discarding your embryos, which includes literally just letting them thaw, and they won't ever. Nothing will ever become of them.
Right. You could
or you're actually donating them to research, which is also sort of discarding them because
you don't know how they're going to be used or whatever the case is. But
maybe some people feel better about that.
Because, but I hear there is a lot of stem cell research and a lot of actually good research being done that can utilize embryos, which again depends on your own personal opinions because everyone may not be comfortable with that either.
No, not everyone's comfortable with that. But I don't think we actually know.
I don't really know the full extent.
I haven't really looked into
the article I read did talk about some scientist was interviewed briefly and mentioned that they're very valuable to their research. So, but I haven't done enough research on that myself to really know if that's a valid point. The other thing that was just so strange to me when I read this article, so I'll chime in with one of my choices. So it's sort of like the way of discarding is such a bad word, but a way.
That's the word. Thawing.
A way of spiritually releasing your embryo is some people, and this blew my mind. Some people will actually implant their embryos at a time when they know that embryo will not live or make a baby, and that's their way of releasing.
Sort of sad.
I know. I read this. I never really thought of this.
Read that.
See, I sent the article to you, and that to me was like I thought about it, and I was like, well, in my
doing
mind,
the embryo transfer in your uterus.
Yeah.
But you know the likelihood of becoming pregnant
you're not going to be
almost zero at that point.
Yeah.
Although you never know. That could be pretty wild.
No, but it was like when you're not ovulating there's no chance of you having it. But that was like I sort of blew my mind. That was an interesting one. I think that was like those were the big things. I'm probably forgetting something else.
It's just, you know what it is? It's just strange because you can think about this like myself. I think about it like scientifically or abstractly, and it's like, it's one thing. You can't even see an embryo with the naked eye. But on the other hand, then when suddenly you're actually faced with this,
you have to make a decision.
Your potential children, and it's not, and I shouldn't even say your potential children.
Because you have
no idea.
Yeah. Maybe it's not a viable embryo.
Yeah, you don't know if you're going to have a successful pregnancy. I mean, especially after having gone through IVF or you've been trying to get pregnant, it's not, there's no guarantees. Nothing's 100%. It's not that easy. So and you could go through all of this hemming and hawing and wondering what you're going to do, and then say, you know what, let's just try to get pregnant again and do frozen embryo transfer multiple times, and it never will work. Or
you could make that decision and get pregnant every single time and then have like 6 kids that you need to care for.
If you're lucky enough to have that many embryos.
But I'm sure that there are people that make that decision because they cannot discard their embryos, that they have decided that I have these embryos, so I have to give them the opportunity to have life. I guarantee you there's a ton of people out there that do that. But I mean, in terms of
we don't know.
control.
I don't actually know.
I don't
never
know
talked
people,
to anyone about
but
this.
I'm thinking this. I mean, there's people out there for everything. So I guarantee there's people out there who did this. And for me, it's just like, I can't even think about, for us, for family wise, like, 6 kids, like we would never be able to devote the amount of attention that we want to give to each one of those children. Like, that's a lot of kids. And financially, that's a lot of kids. I can't imagine having 6 kids. So, and I know this is all just like sort of my mythical story I've just made up.
The point is at some point
you have to make a decision.
You are spending a significant amount of your annual income on having these hang around, possibly, and you have to make a decision at some point.
Yeah,
that's all. And there are some families out there probably thinking about the same thing, right?
Yeah, so we made a video about it. And if you...
Really?
Here's our video.
Wow.
And so, we'd love to see your comments. So many people have commented on various videos of ours. So if there's anybody else out there who is grappling with this decision, has any, knows somebody or has some story about something, please, take a moment to comment, because we would love to see your comments. And I know that it's really helpful for other people in the community to read and see these types of comments and start this type of dialogue. It is a big decision. I think that, I think that these types of discussions will become more and more prevalent as we move forward with, the, LGBT community, having babies, making babies. And granted, I know there's obviously heterosexual couples out there too, who have turned to IVF and have the same types of dilemmas as well. But yeah, so please take a moment to comment if you've got one, and if you don't, thanks for watching. If this is the first time that you're watching us, please subscribe to our channel. We would love that. And yeah, I think that's about it. Take care.